All right, I guess we're recording. I got this backdrop here because I don't want you to see how messy my garage is at the moment, but I'm working on that. What I wanted to talk about is the 4th of July is come and gone. Canada Day, everybody's celebrating their independence, and meanwhile, the troops are leaving Afghanistan, and that sounds like a good thing. You know, we've been there for over 20 years now without any resolution. There were supposedly some deals struck with the Taliban. It doesn't look like they're going to follow through, and I'll tell you why. Over 100 districts have fallen to Taliban control. The Afghan National Army and Afghan National Police do not control these districts. The Taliban do. So it's in the Taliban's best interest to say, yeah, we're going to sign a peace accord because they're on top right now, and so they're willing to negotiate because they're holding all the cards. And as soon as the U.S. pulls out, the Taliban can pretty much do whatever they want. Now, I'm not making a case for extended war in Afghanistan or against it. I'm just talking about what the reality is, and I believe that Afghanistan will fall to the Taliban within a year or two, easily. And we might do some limited airstrikes. We all know that the Democratic Party loves airstrikes because they're kind of clean from a distance, and they look pretty on TV, and you don't get to see the gore and bloodshed that goes on with ground forces fighting. So we might do some extended airstrikes, but in the long run, that's not going to be effective. And the Taliban will probably wear it out. They've got support from a number of people, namely Pakistan ISI. They always have, from their very beginning, been supported by Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. That's something we don't like to talk about, but the Saudis were instrumental in the creation of the Taliban and funding them, and the Taliban becoming the dominant force in Afghanistan in the 90s. Those of you that don't know where the Taliban come from, I was getting a really good education about that in the Army, and it comes directly from Saudi-run refugee camps in Pakistan, in the Pashtun regions of Waziristan, and they imported weapons from us through Saudi Arabia into Pakistan to help the Mujahideen, and also in these refugee camps were the war youths, the people whose fathers were busy fighting the Russians, and they were being educated by Saudi educators in these madrasas, and that's where they're being indoctrinated into Saudi Wahhabism and Salafism, those schools of thought. And that's really where the idea of the Taliban, or Talib being student of Islam, originates from. It was a student movement of Islamic Salafism that rolled into Pakistan at the height of the chaos of the Civil War, when there was only like a bare remnant of a government left, really in name only. There was a prime minister who wielded no power. Of course, the president, Najibullah, was hung from a tank barrel. So it was already in shambles, and the Taliban brought with them the promise of order, and to a degree, in the areas that they controlled, they did. Not good, not kind, but order nonetheless. And until we intervened, and in 2001, as you know, the Al Qaeda decided to hit us. And they were based out of Afghanistan. They were given a place, they were given safe haven there, because there is a bit of gratitude towards Osama bin Laden for his efforts in fighting the Russians as well. So, in accordance with Pashtun laws of hospitality, him and his merry band of Al Qaeda were given safe haven and a place to train and plan and operate from. When we invaded, we took them over pretty quickly. And there's why I'm not a 9/11 truther. 9/11 truthers do make some pretty compelling arguments, but if you roll back the clocks to when George W. Bush first took office, he handed General Wesley Clark a list of 5 countries that needed regime change. You're seeing that reflected now. It's many years later, 20 more years later. We're still trying to carry out those orders. Nobody really knows why. Wesley Clark wasn't informed as to why these particular countries needed a regime change. But on the list was Syria, Iraq, Libya. As you can see, They've been challenged, if not changed, and not for the better. The people of Libya are not doing better than they were before when Gaddafi was in control. Syria's a goddamn shit show, and we're still trying. But I think the problem with Afghanistan was it was not part of the plan, and that's why we didn't commit to it. And that's the problem. We didn't commit to it early on. It forced George Bush's hand. He wanted to go into Iraq first. Was not concerned about Afghanistan. In fact, he had hosted Taliban members in negotiations over a pipeline that was presumed to run from Uzbekistan, carrying Uzbeki oil down to Pakistan, where it could reach the ocean, bypassing the Black Sea. So that was the only interaction we really had with the Taliban, and we had hosted them. They came over to the United States to discuss this potential pipeline deal. And it never came through because 9/11 happened. And the Taliban were not willing to give up Osama bin Laden immediately, not without proof that he actually orchestrated it. And the attack in New York on 9/11 forced George Bush's hand. It was an inconvenience. That's not where he wanted to be. He wanted to concentrate his forces on Iraq, but it forced him to act. And I think he thought he could act quickly, decisively, and end it, be out of there, and go on with his own plan of attacking Iraq, and then Syria, and then Libya, and so on down the list. But for a complete list, check online. And that's a pretty easy Google search. But anyway, I digress. So why I'm not a 9/11 truther is this was unforeseen. There may have been intelligence that could have suggested that this would have happened, but it was ignored. I think it was an inconvenience. I think it was incompetence, and 9/11 happened due to intelligence incompetence not reacting to the threat in a timely manner. And so we were forced to invade. Now, that initial invasion went off really well. We joined up with the Northern Alliance. We crushed the Taliban, and we crushed Al-Qaeda. We had them smashed. We drove them into the Tora Bora Mountains, where they were held up. And as we were about to administer the killing blow, the orders were to stop. We were ordered to stop. Our forces in Tora Bora were ordered to stop. And they watched through their binoculars as Al-Qaeda, what was left of them, and the Taliban, what was left of them, walked into Pakistan to the people that had supported them from the very beginning. That's where they went. I mean, is it any surprise that bin Laden was a mile from a Pakistani military base for 12 years? No, not at all. Why did we allow that to happen? Because we weren't supposed to be in Afghanistan in the first fucking place. George Bush, I think, thought that after having smashed them, we could now concentrate our forces in Iraq like we were supposed to, because he really wanted to invade Iraq, and he needed to get the fuck out of Afghanistan. So ISAF, the international forces, were left with a skeleton crew. There was a time, that time when Al-Qaeda and the Taliban were out of Afghanistan, it was pretty peaceful, and it was very optimistic looking. I mean, there was foreign investment. It was very safe. I talked to a CIA field guy in Kalat back in 2008 who was describing the scene in 2003. Now, Kalat at that time is in Zabul province, and very hot, very dangerous place. I was operating out of Sheri Safa, which is also in Zabul province. This guy was giving a briefing, and he was talking about in 2003 he could go down to the bazaar in Kalat, and he didn't even bother to bring a pistol because it was that safe. At the time I was there, you didn't roll outside the wire without at least 3 gun trucks, fully armed and fully manned. I mean, that was kind of the rule. It was a very dangerous place. The situation had severely degraded in that time. And the reason being is we weren't there doing what we should have done in the first place. We were not building, holding, clearing, and building like the doctrine says. We let it go to shit. We allowed the Taliban to reconstitute in Pakistan and then enter back into Afghanistan because we were too busy in Iraq, fucking that place up. And now here we are. It's gone on too long, and we I don't see a plausible, realistic timeline for bringing stability to Afghanistan. I think it's going to fall, and we fucked up, and we spent trillions of dollars fucking it up. When we had a golden opportunity, we had a window, this small window from 2001 to 2003, where we could be light years ahead as far as road construction, school construction, the democratic process, all of that stuff, financial and security. Because remember, Afghanistan wasn't always fucked up. At one time, it was a hotbed of tourism. It was the largest exporter of wheat in all of Asia. It could be that again. And it also is very rich in mineral resources. It could be self-sustaining, prosperous, and safe. But we just don't give a fuck about it. We care that we're embarrassed. We care that we're embarrassed by the fact that 20 years or more has gone on and with no progress. And I'll tell you another reason that contributes to this. Everybody over there, all the countries involved, all the different organizations involved, all the NGOs, all the government organizations, all of them are stumbling over each other. One hand does not know what the other hand's doing. One unit is practicing principled counterinsurgency warfare techniques, and another one is doing the exact opposite and sometimes operating in the same area. I'm trying to do humanitarian aid projects. Meanwhile, letter agencies and special task forces that I'm not going to name because I live in Virginia, close to the camp, and they probably are already listening to me anyway. I don't know. Yeah, I'm that paranoid. But I'm not going to name them. But they're going out and assassinating people in the middle of the night in the villages around where I was living, unsupported, me and 12 guys and a dog named Woody. That upset me a little bit. So, you see, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Another thing is whenever we get involved in a conflict like this, it's all about personal gain. And I'm not talking about the personal interests or the corporations. That's a whole other fucking ball of wax. I'm not talking about the politicians. I'm talking about how we're organized as militaries and as NGOs, like these humanitarian groups, right? Your promotion, your ability to rise in your organization, your promotability is based on quantifiable bullet points. So you're fighting your personal war while you're over there. You're not advancing the cause. There is no system that you're trying to put with any kind of any kind of longevity. You're there for 18 months. You want to be able to write your reports and bullet points on your NCOER or your OER or however your organization evaluates your performance. You need quantifiable bullet points, such as I spent X amount of dollars, I fired X amount of bullets, I killed X amount of people, I built X amount of roads, I built X amount of schools. So everybody over there is doing their own war for their own personal gain, and we're fighting. We haven't been at war, like they say, for 21 years in Afghanistan. We've been at war 22 times. So everybody that comes in has to put their own personal spin on it. I've seen it happen. We ran a program. It was successful. We lowered the violence in the regions that we were operating in. And we tried to hand that over, all that hard work, to the next unit coming in. Nope, scrap it. Commander's got his own plan, and he's got his own thing, and he's going to fuck it up. And I watched Shari Safa fall as soon as I left. Arghandab, shit show. I was there too, during the first elections. And that was a fucking shit show. And the oncoming unit didn't want to listen to what the unit that was leaving had to tell them, because they already had their own plan in mind. There's some colonel who's looking to become a general. There's some major who's looking to become a colonel. And it goes on down the line, just like that. They're looking for badges and bullet points. And that's how they're fighting this shit. And they're doing the same thing in Syria. And they're going to do the same thing every other fucking intervention. So that's my rant. Right now, I've listened, man. I've been paying attention. I've been paying attention to the lack of interest, In a general sense, people have these warm and fuzzy feelings about the troops, and they want to do something nice for you, maybe buy you a cup of coffee, thank you for your service, all that kind of stuff. but they don't ask questions, and I find that really weird. Like there's a complete lack of curiosity when it comes to Afghanistan or Iraq or Horn of Africa or all these places where our troops are deployed. Total lack of interest. They don't want to know the details. They're out there, but they're just uninterested. And now that we're pulling the troops out, we're leaving behind 600 little troopies to take care of diplomats and stuff. Now all of a sudden, everybody's interested. Biden's president, everybody's interested, and they all have opinions. Because now all of a sudden, they are foreign policy and counterinsurgency warfare experts overnight. It happens with every major event. All of a sudden, right now, we're interested in what's going on in Afghanistan. That is my 4th of July rant. I should have wrote it down instead of just, free balling it and being weird. But I had to get it off my chest, and I think my family's sick of hearing me bitch about it. So I'm going to torture you guys with my opinions. Thank you.